Okay, so we got Rachel and Kyler here today, and we've all agreed that we're going to record this. Are you going to do a video or an audio?
I can do both.
Video might take all the memory in your computer, your phone. I don't know how much memory you have, but if you have an audio way, did you ever do the thing called, do you have an iPhone or Android? iPhone?
Voice memos?
Voice memos, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This way you get and I could always send you a copy of this video, okay? It'll be a few hours actually. So the reason we're recording this is because I spent hours and hours on each individual person to kind of do this clearing, this kind of exorcism thing, depending on what people have. Some people just have a little bit of a negative energy they feel. Some people are fed on or preyed upon. Some people are woken up at nights, nudged, knocking, voices, all kinds of things that disturb them. And some people actually get physically possessed. So depending on the level, the teaching applies for everyone, no matter what level they're at. So thank you for coming all this way to see me, that you put some trust in me. And I think that's really important, that we trust the process and just kind of hear what I have to say. I'm going to tell you a lot of stories about other exorcisms and other things that have happened to me, other things that I've witnessed that caused me to have this knowledge to help. So I tell people that I've been visited by an angel like 4 times in my life. I believe 4 is correct. I'd have to think back, but 1 is questionable. Didn't appear in the room. I had 4 that appeared in the room and actually told me something. And that's just unbelievable, you know. I don't know. I don't think I believed it myself. But for whatever reason, you know, we're all born differently, right? We all have some kind of our brains are wired a little different. And, you know, when they tested me in high school, they said I was in the top 1% to be logical and mechanical. That's pretty good, the top 1%. So I went with that. I had a computer career. I did consulting for IBM, various things. I worked for the Department of Energy. I worked on the atom splitter. I worked in the meteorology department. So I'm pretty brainy dude, but I started seeing things when I was a child. How about you, Kyler? Did you see anything when you were a child, or is all this new to you?
When I was a little kid, a little bit, and then me seeing things went away.
Uh-huh. And then they came back one day.
Issues, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Issues.
Issues? Uh-huh.
When I have, we call it a tick. It's auto that or
Right. And how did that develop? Do you
just randomly.
randomly, did any event happen to you? Did you undergo some stress or something that you think triggered this?
Well,
Usually something triggers it, you know?
an assumption is back in December we went, well, wanted me to get acupuncture,
Uh-huh.
and they did needles in the head, which we wonder if it,
Triggered something.
yeah,
So why were you going to acupuncture to begin with? Because
trying
you
to
have
get rid of allergies.
trying to get rid of allergies. Okay. I'm an allergy sufferer myself, so get it. Okay, so have you ever heard of the pineal gland? The pineal gland is a gland in your brain. It's actually right here on the top in the center. And a lot of spiritual people say it's our connection to God or the universe. If you have a lot of fluoride, that tends to gum it up and dumb you down to your spiritual connection. Your mom's going, yep. And so there's a possibility that after I hung up the phone with her, I'm thinking like, maybe they hit a nerve that activated your pineal gland. So people that are mediums and psychics, we tend to have something different in our brain with our pineal gland. So if you look at all the ancient the pyramids and a lot of ancient cultures, they show that pineal gland, okay? And it's also usually the entwined serpents, you know, that's the medical symbol with the entwined serpents with the pineal gland coming in the center. And it kind of looks like a pine cone, right? So this is, and it's actually, there's like a couple of drops of fluid in there, and it's kind of like a mirror. And it's a way for us to see things that are maybe not in this dimension. You know, science says there's 12 dimensions mathematically, right? Now, wouldn't it make sense that there would be something in those dimensions? Would it just be empty space? There's no purpose for that dimension? So could you imagine like planets and stars rotating around and there's no life on any of the planets? Would there be any purpose for these stars or planets if there were no life? So I kind of know that the world according to Peter is saying that, you know, we're spirits in a body, we're having an experience. Science taught me energy cannot be created or destroyed, it transforms. So we're in these temporary bodies, having an experience, and then when we die, we go to heaven. Some people say we reincarnate, but, you know, we continue on. And even in science, you know, they have cameras where they can take your aura, that's called Kirlian photography. And they also have, before they invented that, they would have a meter, electromagnetic meter, and they could feel the field around the human body. They said it was 600 volts. It's a lot of voltage. So, I mean, amps matter more than volts, I guess, but it's 600 volts. And when someone was dead, they measured that electricity and it was gone. Or it was very, very diminished. Same with the aura photography camera. They would take pictures of people that are alive and people that are dead, and the aura's gone. So you're a spirit in a body, right? Operating as Kyler. That's the name your parents gave you, right? But is that who you really are? Are you Kyler, or are you a spirit in a body? You're both. Yeah, you're a spirit in a body named Kyler. But, you know, if when you were born, if they grabbed you and took you in a helicopter and transported you to the Amazon jungle and dropped you down in a parachute, would you be Kyler? No. You probably have a different name, right? And you would have a different culture, different ways of eating, different ways of showing love, probably. You'd probably be running around with a spear and a loincloth, right? Instead of going to college or whatever you plan on doing. So basically, Kyler is a program that's running. I'm a program. Your mom is a program that's running in this body, and it was all fed in by all the things we experienced, what we learned, what we taught. So, you know, we have to look at this in a spiritual way too. That, yeah, you're this human, Kyler, but you're also a spirit in a body that lives forever and continues on, right? Cool. So, let me hear about what led up to this, what you experienced, how deep it goes. Do you feel like it enters into you and leaves, or it's feeding around you, or it's in you all the time, or what do you feel is going on, or it just bugs you and wakes you up at night, or what's it all about?
I'm not sure. It feels like it's there, and like not leaves, but like doesn't affect me sometimes, but affects me other times. And it's random. It's woken me up at night.
Does it speak to you? Is there a voice connected to it?
No.
It's never told you anything?
No.
Okay, that's a good thing. Your mom's kind of looking a little different. Is that true, or has he told you some other thing?
I'm not positive. Not positive.
Uh-huh.
But he has gotten things of like, kill yourself.
That was in the past.
Okay.
Related to this.
Related to this?
No.
No.
That's what you call school.
Okay.
I'm having.
So you've had a voice that said you want to kill yourself, like in the past?
Depression.
You had depression. Okay. So, but you do feel like there's some kind of a spiritual force outside of you, and it wakes you up?
Yes. And sometimes trying to go to sleep, it will keep me up at night.
How does it keep you up at night?
Well, with the ticks, we call them.
Okay, so you have like a twitching in your neck or something, or?
Like, if you, like that.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Like that.
Uh-huh.
It'll kind of come more forcefully. Meaning, forces my body to do it more constantly to satisfy whatever it is.
To keep you awake.
And, yeah, which forces me awake.
So, can I ask you, like, how you got depressed? Was there something that set this... School? You're going to high school?
Now, yeah.
Now?
I do an online school because my issues started back in January, which was second semester. I only got 3 days into school, and it was January 7th when we first noticed these, but that was on a Monday at school.
Mm-hmm.
It was like each day was slowly building until the 9th, and after school we went to an energy friend of mom's, and she did some energy work and what we call an episode. It's where I'm basically stuck where I'm at for random durations of time.
Okay.
And my head is just aggressively twitching back and forth.
Okay.
It's gotten so bad enough that sometimes, depending on how constant the episodes are, it'll kind of shake my shoulders as well.
Okay. Now, when this happens, you're incapacitated, right? So if that were to happen here, what do we need to do? Do I need to know anything special?
Well, it drains all my energy.
Okay.
Where I'm at.
Okay. Well, you're on a couch. We could always just lay you there. So you're sitting now, but we can just lay here. That's fine. I've had people stay here. It's not a problem. It's a church, so we can accommodate you if necessary. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does it do anything with your blood sugar? Anything that you know of? Okay.
After a while, it'll sometimes, depending on how bad it is, it'll actually not force me to sleep, but I'll sleep for a couple hours.
And you've been to medical doctors, and they don't know what's wrong with you, right?
The first time we went to the hospital, I had 3 doctors ask me, "Are you on drugs?"
Right.
And no, I'm not on drugs, but they can't take that as an answer.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess they did blood tests and determined there were no drugs in your body. So,
Nope.
Right. So there's something here, spiritual, and sometimes, medicine doesn't look at the spiritual. They're all about just the physical body. Yet we have a spirit, and that affects us. And there's spirits all around us. Yet scientific community will say there's 12 dimensions, but what's in these 12 dimensions? Okay, fine, there's 12 dimensions. How do they operate? Who's in them? When you go to heaven, is that a dimension? I say yes, it's the 4th dimension. I'm a big angel guy, and angels are in the 5th, I say. And one angel actually told me that in order to become a guardian angel, that they were human first. Doesn't that make sense? If you're going to help a human, how could you help them if you never had a body? How could you help cold and hungry if you don't know what cold and hungry is, right? All right, so, being in science was all about energy and manifesting, and, this angel told me how to do these exorcisms, and I've just been following along ever since. And it was a story where, basically at that time I still owned my computer consulting company, and I was a part-time minister, and I would do readings here in Casadega, being a psychic and a medium, etc., etc. And a lady called me and she said someone put a spell on me. That this man knocked on the door. A woman knocked on the door and said that she was going to put a spell on her husband and he was going to get sick and subsequently die, she claimed. Well, sure enough, the woman said a couple of days after she did this at the door, her husband got sick and subsequently, like a year later, he died. So she called me and she said there's still a dark shadow hovering, around the corners of the walls, and it kind of feeds on their energy and robs them of energy and made her husband sick and weak. And I thought, this is kind of bizarre. At that time, it was probably about 17 or 18 years ago when this happened. And so, at that time I was a Christian minister. However, I was a Christian minister that was preaching reincarnation because I saw reincarnation in the Bible, And I guess I'm not going to go into that in great detail, but I definitely studied early Christianity. And, the Dead Sea Scrolls and the things they've dug up that were only like 100 years after Jesus, they all say that reincarnation was the cornerstone of Christianity. They didn't even put the Bible together until 325 AD. So, for me, there's reincarnation, and I see it in the Bible. But nevertheless,
We believe in it, so it's not.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so it just makes sense that you'd have to be a human first to become a guardian angel. And anyway, so I'm answer this lady's call, and I'm driving to Orlando. And I pack a duffel bag with the statue of Michael the Archangel and a cross and holy water and some sage and all these things. And I start heading for this woman's home. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking, like, either this lady's got a screw loose or, this is real. I don't know which. Because she's telling me some other fascinating, outlandish things. She goes to sleep and she wakes up in the morning and all the cabinet doors are open, chairs are pulled out, things are changed. And have you had any things like that in your home where you actually saw a change, where a spirit did something? So it hasn't actually manifested physically. It's more
This is more with him.
with him,
And
surrounding him.
When I come home, when we're at home, I get affected by it.
You get what?
It shuts me down.
Oh, so it affects you as well.
Energetically.
Uh-huh.
So, I can't meditate or anything like that. I just
Right. So
go to sleep.
do you see it? Some people have the gift of seeing things. Some people feel.
I do all of it, but I think because I'm so close with them, I can't.
So you kind of close it down. Okay, that's fine.
It's my emotions get there, so I can't see anything.
Right on. So you basically feel it, Kyler. You don't actually see anything or witness anything physically. Okay. But all you know is it drains your energy. It makes you more depressed. It makes you unmotivated. It causes the twitching thing going on, right?
The
Whole body, like almost like a convulsion of some
I
sorts.
think of it like an unwinding.
Okay.
When you look at it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's unwinding.
Okay.
He's very weak to walk afterwards, or he'll go to,
Okay.
go to sleep, but I think
Okay.
it's been like that.
That's fine.
When anything like energetically, especially when my mom does it, like anybody, like energy work, it'll kind of trigger the ticks to start building up towards an episode. And with the issues, we call them issues, with the ticks, when they build, it can either have two outcomes, either the tick episode or an aggression episode.
So you get aggressive.
Yes.
Are you dangerous?
I pray to God no, but
Okay.
It hasn't hurt.
You worry about it though?
yes.
Like it'll go further?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm extremely aggressive verbally, and when the aggression issue has happened, I've punched the couch, punched the wall.
Okay.
I just don't want it to be
Right.
on her or any.
Right. Don't punch me. You're a pretty big guy. You're bigger than me. So, were you in sports before? You look pretty fit. Yeah. You look pretty fit. You're over 6 feet. Definitely. What are you, 6'2" or something?
I'm only 5'11".
Oh, 5'11". You just look big. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, with shoes, I'm over.
I'm sorry?
With anything under my feet, I'm over 6 foot.
Okay, right on. You're almost 6 foot. Yeah. So, everything was going good, right? Everything.
Better than it was now.
Yeah, better than it was now. And you're 19, is it, or?
I wish. I'm only 17.
You're 17. Okay. So I'll just continue the story. So I'm kind of nervous about driving to this lady's house because she said that she had a priest come. That didn't help. She had a minister come and bless her house. That didn't help. And she said, basically, it just got worse. She said, you know, basically they pissed it off after they left and made it worse. So she thought since I was a medium that I could go there and find out what it wanted, why it was there. I guess she knew why it was there. It was a spell. So, you know, being Catholic and everything, coming from that upbringing like you, I didn't believe in spells. I thought, you know, only if you believed in a spell it could affect you. Well, how wrong I was. After I've been doing this for all these years, I realized that people make an altar, they conjure a demon or an entity, and they send them over to your house to do you harm. So whether someone conjured a spell, I don't think that's the case. It could be, or this thing just happened to come by and attach to you. Doesn't matter how it got there. What the result is, we want to get it off, right? So I'm driving down the road. This is my first ever exorcism. You know, I'm doing fine, bringing in deceased loved ones for little old ladies and such, and that was all good. So now I'm really being put to the test. I'm driving down the road, and I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I need a professional exorcist, like a Catholic priest that does this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm thinking I'll say the Lord's Prayer, I'll recite Psalms, I'll sprinkle some holy water around, and be done, you know. But what more would I do than those other priests and ministers did? So I'm a minister, I'm going to answer her call, I'm driving, and kind of nervous about the whole situation. And I don't know this lady, I don't know anything about her except what she's told me. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll do this. And then all of a sudden, an angel enters my car while I'm on the highway going like 70 miles an hour. And, you know, if I hadn't seen an angel before, I'd probably drive off the road. But since I saw one before, it was okay, kind of. And basically, he told me that I had to use this inner power inside of me, that we were not separate from God, or the creator, the universe, whatever you want to call it. We're not separated from the source, the Big Bang, the one piece that made all of us. We're all intertwined in it, and we're not separate from it. So he said that most of us humans are taught separateness from God, but meanwhile, God is right within us. So the Gospel of Thomas never made it to the Bible, but it speaks about Jesus telling them, you have the power same as me, you're no different. And he teaches them about power. He talks about dimensions. He talks about all these things that council that put the Bible together in 300 AD thought this wasn't important for us. Because I feel that, you know, they wanted us to be scared. You know, scared of God, and the angry God, and the jealous God, and the this God, and the that God. And if you don't behave, you're going to hell. So, you know, back then, in the Middle Ages or whatever, when you stole the bread, they usually chopped off your fingers. They did something radical like that, right? But not only that, but now you're going to go to hell for all of eternity. So it was a way to keep people behaved, you know. So they didn't want that book because that empowers people. You know, I'm a healer, and I lay hands on people, and people actually get healed. So, you know, I discovered this power, and this angel is telling me in the car, hey, you have this power in you, and you're not separate from it. We all have a piece of this creator, and the Creator is the most powerful thing in the universe. You would think the thing that created all this would be the most powerful, right? So he tells me, look at your dashboard, look at your car. Look at all the imagination that went into building this car you're sitting in. He said, you humans create physical things with your imagination. Look at all the objects in my office, all created with imagination. So he said, in order to do something supernatural, wouldn't it stand to reason that you would use your imagination to do it? I was like, heck yeah, that sounds right to me. So he said, coupled with a knowing that you have this Holy Spirit or this God force and that you're not separate from it. Because everyone's praying to Jesus. Oh, Jesus, come to the schoolyard and fight my fights and heal my brother and do this and do that, right? Do prayers get answered? Yes, they do. Do they get answered all the time? No, they don't. So, Jesus was all about empowering. This is what the angel taught me. That, he took these 12 apostles. They were like grunt fishermen, commercial fishermen, right? He gathered them up and told them to follow him and showed them how to do miracles. And then after Jesus left, they did all the miracles too. They healed the lepers. They even rose someone from the dead. It's called the Acts of the Apostles. You went to Catholic school, right? So, here we are. Meanwhile, the church is telling me, I couldn't go into a Catholic church and say, I can heal you, let me put my hands on you. They'd be like, blasphemy, out of this church, pray to Jesus, pray to St. Anthony, pray to somebody, Mother Mary. That's all good. I believe in all those people, all those characters, all those entities. They do answer prayers. It's great. Some people are prayers and some people are doers. I'm a doer. So, I feel like you're a doer too. But you lost some of it along the way through all this nonsense. That's what I call it, nonsense. So anyway, he tells me that you can hope to have the power of God, and it's about this much. But that's not enough to help this woman, he says. He said you can believe, that's greater than hope, but it's still not enough to help this woman. Also, he said that you could have great faith. That's greater than hope or belief. It has less doubt, right? When you have faith. If you hope, there's doubt. Well, I hope it might happen. There's doubt there. Doubt is negative. You can have faith. That's greater. Wonderful. But he says when you know it, when you have the 100% know that you have the power of God within you, and you wield it with imagination, coupled with emotion as well, it's unbeatable. I guess this angel did have a previous life, because he said it's like throwing the ace of spades in a deck of cards. It beats everything. So how would the angel know about the ace of spades? Or a dashboard for that matter.
Yeah.
So anyway, he told me all this, and he said that nothing would ever befall me. He said, we need humans to knock on the door. We need physical people to help with this. And if you're willing to do this, nothing will ever befall you, he said. So I thought, okay, that's a good guarantee, right? So I agreed. I told him I will continue to do it. And you know what? I get calls. I get a lot of calls. I do probably about 4 exorcisms a month. Sometimes I got to travel to them. Sometimes there's ghosts in the house. Various things. But it's an adventure, I have to say. I meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of nice people that get preyed upon. And, the thing he told me was that it preys on fear. Fear, anger, anxiety, depression, frustration, all the negative human emotions. So he also explained to me that human emotions are a double-edged sword. They can debilitate you. They can make you depressed and anxious and all of these things. But they could also, when you get angry, anger could be good. It could be bad too, depending on how you use that anger. An example of us defying our physical self is, you've heard these stories about, a baby's trapped under the car, and the mom will lift the car, and they call that adrenaline scientifically, but there's emotion connected to that. There's an emotion driving that woman to lift the car. So, yeah, the physical body produces a lot of adrenaline and cortisol to do that task, but it's emotion that drives it. Did you ever get scared and the hair on your arms raises up?
Sometimes.
Yeah, we've all experienced that at least once in our lives. So, that emotion raises the hair on your arms. You can see it physically. That's what emotion does. And that's what fear does. Fear is a big energy. So when you fear or you get angry, now these spirits are feeding on that aura I talked about, or that life force. So they're sucking the life out of you, causing you to be depressed. So the best way to do this is to kind of be like a peaceful warrior, Have you ever seen that movie, The Peaceful Warrior? It's kind of good. It's a good movie. But the peaceful warrior is like this ninja, right? But he's always defensive. Whenever people attack him, he'll defend himself, but he doesn't get angry and, go back upon them or, want to kill them. Or he wants to protect and he preserves life. That's his kind of thing. So it's kind of the same thing, when a spirit comes at you or you start getting these twitches or whatever triggers it or whatever energy you feel is coming upon you, you can use this God force, just like the angel taught me is what I'm going to teach you, is, basically how to spiritually box, okay? So, I could, push energy off of people. I know my power. I can do that. But what happens when you walk out the door? I've had people that I push these things off of, and then like 2 seconds later, it's right back on them because, they don't know their power. Not believe it, not hope, but know it. So you have to know your power. And, if you played sports, you know all about the human emotion and how you operate in sports. If the other team psychs you out, you're not going to perform that well. Or if you keep saying to yourself, they're a better team, and I did crappy in practice, and I did this, and you don't perform well because your mind psychs you out. So we're going to psych you up and get you to go above all this negativity. And so anyway, I'm going to continue the story, back to the story. Here I go, veering off again. So back to the story. I'm driving and this angel tells me all these things. And he said this, something really that struck me to the core. He said, I'll always be with you as long as you know that I'm here. The moment that you doubt that I'm here, then I'm not. You're on your own. And so he said also that I had enough power in me to defend myself against anything, that I didn't necessarily need Michael the Archangel to be there with me, that what he taught me was not anything separate than that he had. The only thing is he's operating in a different dimension. He's operating in the fourth, kind of where the spirit is coming upon you. So that's why I call upon him, because, I have a thing to see the fourth dimension. I bring in deceased loved ones that are in the fourth dimension, but I'm seeing like little bits and fragments of it where he's in that dimension, and in this one as well if he chooses to be. So he has other capabilities than we have, yet the same God force is the same. And we wield it the same. So we're no different than even Michael the Archangel. So I'm like, okay, cool. This sounds good. And I agree to do this. And so I arrive at the lady's home. And she was like, okay, well, before you begin or even come into my house, she says, you have to prove something to me. I said, what? I drove here an hour and I got to prove something to you now? She says, yeah, well, I don't want you pissing it off like the priest and the minister. I said, okay, well, I can't say I don't blame you, but I wish you would have told me this, before I arrived. And so I said, well, let me see. I might be going back to the car and saying goodbye, but we'll see. So I closed my eyes. And I had a vision. I had a UPS truck come in my vision. And I told her, no voice told me. It was a knowing. I just knew. I said, you sent away to a shaman. The package is coming tomorrow. And it's a thing to break this spell. She said, true. She says, I sent away to Trinidad. I'm from Trinidad. And I sent away. And it should be coming probably tomorrow. Okay, fine. And then I said, the lady that knocked on your door and put the spell on you lives down the street, last house on the left. She said, true as well. She couldn't believe it. She's like, wow. And I laughed because there's an old horror movie from the 70s, Last House on the Left. So I chuckled. I said, that's funny. So, I didn't even know the woman lived in the neighborhood or, where this woman came from. But she said I was correct, and it gave her confidence that I can do something. So I proceeded. But I told her the same angel story I told you, how I didn't know what the hell I was doing and thought I'd be a medium and try to see. But, my plan was sprinkling the holy water and saying some prayers. And she said, well, yeah, that's what they did. So I said, well, I have a whole new game plan now because this angel came and told me what to do. So she says, okay. So I told her all about this power. You have to know it. The other thing the angel told me was, once it's done, it's done. Once you throw God at this thing, energy, the demon, the whatever you want to call it, the negative entity, once you throw the ace of spades, it beats everything. Don't doubt what we did. Because if you doubt God, how powerful is what you do going to be? If you doubt that you even had it inside of you, then it's not going to be very strong, is it? Because doubt is a negative form. If you doubt yourself in playing baseball, you don't perform that well, right? Yeah, exactly. Just the law of how things work, right? So she agreed, and I kept saying, once it's done, it's done. Once it's done, it's done. So the angel told me what to do. He told me to open a tunnel. So I held her hands. We opened the tunnel. And whatever was bothering her, whatever spell it was, we opened a tunnel of light to it. And we said, the light, God is all forgiving, the creator, whatever you want to call it. And I told it, aren't you sick of being here on the earth plane? It's not a very great place. You're kind of stuck here without a body, that the sun is going to go out. And, I know you're feeding on humans, but, eternity, forever is a long time. One day the sun will go out and there'll be nobody inhabiting the earth. Then who are you going to feed on now? So you might as well bite the bullet, go into the light, and I'm going to open this tunnel for you. So we did. Me and the lady, we opened and we used our imagination. We closed our eyes. We created a tunnel. I didn't go, oh, Jesus, please send the angels, and, oh, Michael, please come, and I'm helpless. No. I did what the book of Thomas says. Find your power. You can do greater things than I. So we created the angels around the tunnel. And I created badasses, shields and swords, tough guys. And that's what I created in my mind. It's like a cartoon, I did it like a cartoon, and I opened this tunnel, and we did a countdown. I said all what I needed to say. You might as well go in the light, that there's these demons or negative entities that are lying to you, telling you you're going to go to hell. A lot of human spirits that linger here, they've done bad things. I've run across some doing other exorcisms, and people have done research and checked out, what I've seen in these homes. And they'll say, oh my God, there was a newspaper. Yeah, he did kill this one, and this. So sometimes I go with camera people. We record it. We capture these things on video. And then I tell a story about who these spirits are, why they're in the house, why they left behind. And these two girls, they said, man, Peter, that was an outlandish story. And they went back to the public library in that town, and they looked at they found it. So, it kind of all makes sense to me. I'm very logical, very scientific, and when you have evidence that proves, people keep telling you, yeah, that's right, then you kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm doing something here, something to help. So you get more confident, and the more confident you get, the more power you can wield. So we did the tunnel, and then we shut it. We did a countdown, and I did actually feel a couple of spirits go through. Maybe not connected to the spell, but like when you make this tunnel of light, it goes right through the roof of the house. They see it from everywhere. If the light of heaven's going to come down, these spirits are going to see it. So I shielded it from the negative entities. Even those, if they wanted to go into the tunnel, go ahead. God's all forgiving. So I tell them there's no hell. That if you want to go there, there's a place called hell. But, you're not condemned there. You're not convicted there. And I just talk about that. And say, if you want to go, aren't you sick of not having a body? You can go up there, get a new body, reincarnate, do whatever you need to do. And so I feel a couple go through, and then we close the tunnel. And then, with our imagination and the God force, we made a bubble. And we started bubbling out, and it's rippling through all the walls and windows. And I said, this bubble's a mirror. And whoever put this spell on you or has any negative intentions to you, we reflect it back, the energy back to those who send it. We're going to mirror it out. I never read a spell book, but people tell me they use mirrors in spell books. Anyway, my imagination made the mirror, do. She actually even had a compact mirror that we used and did that as well. And we just did the thing. And then she felt, a lightness come upon the home. I did too. And we were done. Simple. I did the holy water, and we did the walls and the windows, and I told her, put your finger in this water, knowing you have the power. We're going to fuse it with the power of God. So, think it and make it. Because if you don't think it and you're not sure about it, you're not going to make it. So I got her to make it. Do it. Not hope to do it. Do it. Throw God in there. And we threw Michael and Jesus and all this. And I did the same. So now this water became magical, it's going to repel anything. So we did that. We lit a candle, and I put a candle on the desk, and I told her, it was on her kitchen counter, and I said, it's a 5-day candle of Michael the Archangel in glass. And I said, let it burn the 5 days. And every time you pass it, it reminds you to reinforce the bubble. I can't sleep over. I can't keep reinforcing the bubble for you, But, she agreed to all of this. So I'm packing my duffel bag and putting everything away, leave the candle with her, leave some holy water with her. And she's sitting on the couch, and she's looking up at the ceiling. And she goes, do you think it's gone? And I said, really, lady? I said, once you wheeled gone, do you think it's gone? You doubted God. You doubted Jesus was here. You doubted Michael was here. You doubted my Holy Spirit. You doubted your Holy Spirit. How powerful do you think this bubble is? You just put a big hole of doubt. Doubt is negative energy. It's a demon. It debilitates us as humans, whether we doubt ourselves. Now you put a big hole. Here come the shit back in. Excuse my language, but I think that's a good word. So, the shit came right back in. Yeah. No wonder the priest and the minister weren't successful. She probably doubted what they did too. So I said, okay, I got to unpack everything. We got to go do it again. And, subsequently the woman didn't have any trouble. There was another young man that I took care of soon after that. This you're going to love. This is crazy. Crazy. It makes a lot of sense, but it's crazy in human terms, So this guy calls me. His name's David. He's like 24 years old at the time. And his problem is that he's really super skinny. And he eats and eats and eats. And the father's like, where is this food going? He keeps eating and eating and eating. He goes to the medical hospital. They check his metabolism and his sugar levels and all these things. And they said, we don't know what's wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. So then he goes to a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist says, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with him. We don't know why he's so. He was eating like 3 boxes of cereal a day, just pigging out. But he's like 20 pounds under. You see his ribs, you know, and his face is all drawn in. He's white as a ghost. He has no color. He's being sucked dry. The energy's being sucked out of him. And so I talked to his dad. They lived in Altamont. And we agreed that actually the psychiatrist said, I think you have a spiritual problem. I think you should seek someone spiritual. So that's how they come to find me. And that was kind of nice, that someone in the medical community could recognize a spiritual problem. And so they called me and I came over. And I told the father, make David a little hungry, because what happens to David is similar to your situation. What happens to him is if he doesn't eat, the eyes would roll up into his head, he would turn white as a ghost, and he would go to sleep. And the only way they could wake him up is to throw some orange juice down his mouth or something to get his sugar level back up. But this thing would just suck the energy out of him, suck all the sugar out of him, glucose, whatever. And so he was a little hungry, he was a little agitated, and I started talking to David, like, what is this thing? He says, I got this thing, it's inside of me, it robs me of my energy, it comes out every once in a while, it makes me angry, I start yelling at my dad, I do these horrible things. And he tells me all these things, and I said, okay, I want to talk to this thing inside of you. So he says, well, it doesn't want to talk to you, and all this crap, and blah blah blah. So I said, okay. So I kind of put him in an altered state of mind. Okay, we'll call it that. I call it a ceremony, we'll say. Okay? So get him in this altered state of mind, and he starts responding. Well, this entity says that it eats all my food and it takes all my energy, and so I ask it questions. It says this, he's saying, and it says that, and I said, no, I want to hear it directly in the first person. All of a sudden the thing comes out, it starts talking to me in the first person. And it says to me that I said, well, what was, before you were in David, I said, how long have you been hopping from body to body to body? And he says, like 200 years he's been hopping from person to person to person. And I said, well, why didn't you go in the light? He said, well, I was a slave trader. I was from Boston, and I traded slaves, and I caused a lot of death and despair in the world, and killed some people and different things, and he was greedy for the money, and it was very lucrative, and now, he's afraid to go to heaven, afraid to go to the light, because he thinks if he goes to the light, he's going to go to hell. Because that's what he was taught. He's raised Christian like all of us, and you're going to go to hell. You do like a bunch of bad things like that, I'm sure you're going to hell. Probably responsible for several hundred people's lives and their miseries. Maybe thousands even. So he was afraid. But for me, I told him the light is all forgiving. If you have any little bit of remorse, the light will forgive you. And then, wouldn't you like to have your own body, I said. Wouldn't you like to come back to earth and have your own body? The thing said, yeah, I would like it. I said, well, the only way to do it is you got to go to the light. And so the thing was saying, well, that there were other entities there that were kind of like his boss, that would make him do things, lie, he didn't say lie, I couldn't say that, but I could tell that they were lying to him. And I said, I'm going to open this tunnel just like I did with the lady. We're going to put all these angels around it, and I'm going to give you a passage into this heavenly light. It said it was afraid. It took me a little while to convince it, and all of a sudden it left. And you saw David's face, the color returned to his cheeks. He wasn't pale white. I told him, David, sit up. Look in the mirror. He looked in the mirror and tears are just pouring down his face. And he was released. So the thing willingly left. I didn't need to push it out on this instant. Didn't need to dome the house or anything like that. This tunnel of light was sufficient. It wanted to leave. I convinced it to leave. It got sick of lingering here, doing bidding for negative things, and it went. David was elated. And you saw the color. He was so pale. So pale. And got reports back several months later. He gained weight. He had gained like 15 more pounds, and he's doing good, and he's swimming laps in the pool. And he was, there was 3 projects he wanted to work on. He said he couldn't finish those for the life of him. He couldn't finish anything. He had already gotten a project done. He was returned back to work. He couldn't work anymore because these things would come on him at work. So he was returning to work, and actually subsequently he contacted me 7 years later. He sent me a package in the mail. He said I had moved to Arizona. He was telling me all about how never forget me and what happened. And then subsequently, after that, about a year after he sent me the package, he went to go visit his dad in Altamont. He came here and he visited me, and I couldn't believe the difference. You know, he had put on weight, he looked good, he had a job, he had a career. So, you know, this debilitating thing was just lifted off him like that. So that's why we're here. I hoped that you take all this in, because I'm going to push it out of you. I guarantee I'll push it out of you. It's just like you got to keep it away, okay? And this pineal thing, this is a problem because sometimes, you know, you can't close your eyes to things that are there or feel things around you. So, and you're highly sensitive. You have allergies. You're a sensitive male like me. And so us sensitive people, we kind of get invaded. Also, the more spiritually bright we are, I bet you started out, you were probably really spiritually bright when this all happened, and these entities, they want to feed off a big light bulb, right? So it's like moths to a flame, you know, the biggest flame, the moths are going to go to that one. So I do feel like at one time you were a very strong person. Things were going well, you had everything going good, right? Everything was going good?
Always better than that.
Yeah? Okay.
He was doing great in school and in baseball.
Uh-huh.
Freshman year, said he could easily make varsity.
All right.
Then this happened.
So you're like a normal young man, right?
Yeah.
You would consider?
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah. So things were going good, and you were probably a bright light, and you were raised Catholic, right? You went to Catholic school?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You served as an altar boy, anything like that?
For a little while.
For a little while, yeah. So you were spiritually bright. So you had great faith then, right? Yeah.
When he was little, he was able to catch bumblebees and not bother him, and butterflies and all those things that,
Right on.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
dirty.
Yeah. So,
Just the point of catching them, they come to you. They don't come to everybody. That's the point.
they would come to you.
Yeah.
Kind of like Francis of Assisi thing. Yeah.
They would.
So things would come to you. Yeah. I had a great grandma like that. We used to call her a bird whisperer, even before we knew what a bird whisperer was. But she had a thing for birds. And she lived in Brooklyn, in New York City, and she had all these parakeets and canaries and things. And all she would do is put her arm out the window, because in the winter, these things weren't going to live too long in New York City, but they used to hover around the smokestacks on top of buildings to keep warm. They kind of survived. But she'd put out her arm, and she would like do a little tweet, and these birds would land on her arm. She'd bring them in the house, and she'd put them right in the cage. They'd go right in there. She'd take care of them. Yeah. So everyone has different stuff, you know. And, you know, you had some kind of connection with nature. So that's good. So we all, you know, it just proves my point how differently we are wired. So anyway, so to continue the story, this is crazy. So I leave David and his dad, and I'm like really happy of the turnout. And I'm driving down I-4, and my friend Pedro calls me on his cell, and he says, "Hey Peter, come down to the pub. We're at the pub, and you don't come here anymore, and we don't see you anymore. And I've been trying to get you to meet my girlfriend, but it's been 3 months, and we never get together. I really want you to meet her." I said, "Okay, Pedro, I'm a couple exits away. And I'll be there in 5 minutes. I'll come meet your girlfriend." So I get there, and there's 3 other of my friends there. There's Pedro and this new girl, right? So nobody knows where I've been, right? Nobody knows anything. I just arrived there. And I shake the girl's hand. I say, "Oh, nice to meet you," and all that. And so they're in the corner, lovey-dovey, kissing, and I tell my other friends, "Let's leave these lovebirds alone and let's go shoot a game of pool." So we shoot a couple of games of pool, and we come back to their table, and this girl looks at me and she goes, "F you." And I go, "What?" And everyone's like, "Hey, like, why are you doing that? What's your problem?" They're saying to her. And I said, "Ha ha ha, really funny, because there's no reason for her to do that. I just met her and say hello." That didn't make any sense. So she goes, "No, I really mean it. F you." And she goes, "I see the horns coming out of your head." And I go, "Horns?" I said, "I don't think I have any horns, but I think maybe you have some horns." And she turns around. And all my friends were like, "What? What the hell is going on?" And I said, "Pedro, don't worry. This isn't your girlfriend." And we actually saw her eyes changing, and the whites were turning red. And she was looking like very demonic. And she turned and looked at me. She goes, "You think you did something for David? You're a pussy." Just like that in a man's growly voice. And everyone's like, "What? What? And I like pussy. I like pussy. I like all kinds of pussy. I like this pussy. I like that pussy." And I'm doing pussy jokes. Sorry. It's just what happened. And everyone's laughing at me, about these pussy jokes. And meanwhile, this demon is trying to intimidate us, trying to make everyone there scared, trying to feed on the energy. And I'm like, "Ha ha ha, da 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 da." And the thing just gets so diminished. You see the power just leaving her. The eyes are turning back. Because now we're laughing at a demon. You're supposed to be scaring us, and now we're laughing at it. So it leaves. And I'm not going to say the girl's name because this is videotaped. And she returns back to herself. She doesn't remember a damn thing. Needless to say, my friend never dated her again. It scared the crap out of him. And the reason why it got on her was because she had been drinking too much. And so it wasn't the guy that went to the master that went up, the slave trader. He went. It was this boss that didn't like me freeing that soul that he had trapped. So it followed me all the way down I-4, followed me to the bar, tried to scare me, intimidate my friends. We just laughed at it and was gone. So this is like how powerful this is. If you fear it, if you let it get to you, it's going to eat you up and spit you out. That's what the angel told me. So I'm here to empower you. That's the only way I can save you, is by telling you these stories, putting this knowledge into you. And I'm going to go backward in time, actually. I had divorced my wife after 20 years, and it was only a few days that she wasn't in the house. And I had my kids, and it was just me and the kids and the house. And she went to go live with her parents. So I'm laying in bed one night, and I'm fast asleep. And when I sleep, it's all dark in my room. I don't want any light. So it's pitch black. And I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden this voice says, "I want to kill you." just like that, just like that. I wake up and I'm like looking around in the darkness, peering around, and I'm thinking like, who's in my room? You know, it was a dream, but it didn't sound like it was in. It was on the outside of me. There was somebody in my room. And so I turn on the lights and I start checking my closet. I'm checking the sliding glass doors. And subconsciously I know, like, there's no person in my room. That this is like some kind of a spirit or something. Who wants to kill you and announce it before they do it? You know, that'd be kind of defeat the purpose. They probably hit you over the head and then, you know.
Right.
So, you know, it's not a smart tactic. And so anyway, I discover there's nothing in the house. I check my kids. They're all sound asleep. I, you know, go in the kitchen, check everything. Nothing there. Get a drink of water, and I go back to bed. So I turn out the light, and I go to lay back down. As soon as my head hit the pillow, I'm fully awake now. As soon as my head hit the pillow, this voice comes back and says, "I want to kill you." Just like that. Kind of like a whisper, but a loud whisper. And all of a sudden, it grabs my ankles and it starts yanking me like forcefully like this to the bottom of the bed. And my first reaction is sit up and stop myself from being yanked to the bottom of the bed. And what I realized is my body's not moving one bit. I'm not being yanked by my ankles physically, but it's got a hold of my spirit and it's trying to pull the spirit right out of my body. And I feel it like down to my stomach.
Wow.
And I just went like, my natural reaction was like, and I breathed my spirit back into my body. I pointed in the darkness. I said, "You want to kill me? You can't kill me. I'm immortal. I have a contract with God. You cannot kill me. You got no power here, so be gone." The thing went, "Oh shit," and left. I don't know where that came from. It was spiritual knowledge that and this is before exorcisms, before I was training, and I was still a student in I don't remember. Maybe dabbling a little, doing professional and a student. Yeah, I think I was a reader at the hotel at the time. But anyway, nevertheless. And I just called it out. I was like, "You can't kill me. I got a contract. I'm immortal." I said, oh yeah, I said, add to that. I said, "You can't kill me." I said, "I'm immortal spirit. You can kill my body if you want to manifest in the room and fight me. I'll fight you. But even if you were to kill my physical body, you still can't kill me because I'm immortal." Where did that come from to react like that? It was built into me. No wonder I was chosen by the angel. And as well, I just feel like, you know, there was something about me that why I'm here to do this. We all come here to do this for a reason. And, you know, they do need someone to knock on the door. And it was just built into me. It was hardwired, and it came out in that moment of, you know, I wasn't frightened. I wasn't going like, "Oh my God," you know, because most of the people that I encounter with this, they're like, "Oh my God," and they're annoyed and tormented, and it just drags them down and drags them down. I wasn't going to let that. I was like, "You can't do this. You're a joke." You know? Be gone. You have nothing here. And it just left. It was like, oh shit, I encountered the wrong person. And I feel that this was a lesson for me, that somebody, angel or someone, made this happen to me to kind of see what I was made out of. Because, you know, when I went to Catholic school, I would pray to Jesus. That's cool. But I always felt like, you know what, we're all supposed to be like apostles. We're all supposed to, he said, you can do greater things than I. He told a multitude of people. He said, don't pray to me, pray to the Father. But he also said the Father's within you. And that's exactly everything the angel taught me. And I never bought into, don't get me wrong, Catholic gave me great faith, and it was a great building block in my life. You know, without that, I probably wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing today. But I went past it because I felt it was too limiting for me. I wanted to be an apostle just like everybody else, you know. Jesus said that. You can do greater things than I. Well, I kind of took that to heart when I read that. And, you know, through more studying, I realized that a lot of the religion was debilitating and it was taking our power. And as I studied early Christianity believed in reincarnation. Jesus coming back again was reincarnation. And then I watched a documentary about 2 years ago, and they said this Pope in 600 AD invented hell, that it was one time here. And prior to that, early Christian religion believed in reincarnation. So, you know, it would stand to reason. Why would you be the slave in the ditch and versus the king in the castle? Well, the slave in the ditch is going to know more about human despair than the king in the castle. And if you're going to be an angel to help humans, I guess you'd have to be the slave in the ditch to understand, you know, what that is. So it makes sense we would come time and time and keep switching roles. Jesus said this at the cross. He said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." And what he was saying was, someone had to be Judas. Someone had to be the villain in his play. Someone had to turn him in for 30 pieces of silver. Someone had to be Pontius Pilate to convict him. Someone had to be the crowd. Because Pontius Pilate didn't want to convict him. He said to them, why aren't you going to crucify the murderer? This guy's only preaching God, his God. And they were like, kill him, kill him, kill him. So the public wanted it and twisted his arm into crucifying him. Meanwhile, he didn't want to do it. So you needed the crowd to convince Pontius Pilate. You needed the guards to come take him away. And you know what? Jesus was a psychic. All in the Bible, in the Old Testament, they called them seers. Daniel was a prophet. He was a seer. All the prophets in the Bible, everyone's a prophet. Jesus was a seer, a prophet, a psychic. Modern term is, you know, if you look in a thesaurus, a psychic would be a seer, would be a prophet. Same word, just changed. Modern times, we call it psychic. So, you know, Jesus said, you know, at the last summer, one of you betrayed me. And they're all looking, who? Which one? Of course, it was Judas. And then he said, Peter, you will deny me when the cock crows 3 times. You will deny me 3. He predicted that. And sure enough, you know, when the guards came, the soldiers came and looked at Peter and said, you look familiar. You were hanging around with that Jesus guy. Oh, no, I wasn't. You know, that was my cousin Marty. He looks like me or whatever. I don't know what he said. But he denied Jesus 3 times. So, you know, in the Bible, there's the gifts of prophecy. They didn't teach us that in Catholic school. The gifts of the Holy Spirit. Corinthians chapter 1, verse 14, I think. And it says the gift of doing miracles, the gift of healing, the gift of speaking in tongues, the gift of interpreting tongues, the gift of instilling faith in others, the gift of prophecy, miracles, discernment of spirits. Anyway, there's 9 of them. I don't know if I got all of them, but... Oh, spiritual knowledge and wisdom. That's what I'm giving you, spiritual knowledge and wisdom. And better than faith, knowing. A knowing of it. So, that's all we need. I told you a couple of stories, and you just have to know it. Do you know that you have this power? Do you feel separate from it? Are you part of it? Are you immortal? Do you live forever?
Not live forever, but
Not your body, but your spirit does, right? Yeah. So you got this power just like me, no different. Did you ever see Star Wars? The Force? All right, well, there's a thing where Yoda teaches Luke Skywalker the Force, and he's going like this, and he's teaching him how to use the Force, and all of a sudden he levitates a rock. And he's doing that, and he puts the rock down, and so his ship is stuck in the bog, right? And the Yoda says, okay, well, if you can levitate the rock, levitate your ship out of the bog. He says, oh, master, that's such a large ship, you know, I can't do that. He says, No, it's no different than the rock. If you can lift the rock, you could lift the ship. And he tries and he tries and he says, I'll try. And the master says, try not, do, or don't even try. So when we do this, we're doing it. We're not trying it. We're not hoping for it. We're not praying for it. Well, we could pray, but we're still going to do it. And we can call a Michael, and we can call Jesus, and we can call whoever you want to come in and help. But we're going to do this, and we're going to strengthen you so that nothing will ever be able to harm you again. You won't feel this feeling anymore. And, I got a bunch of cards and letters from people who were healed. Cancer, MS. 4 ladies now with severe psoriasis. It's always the 3rd day, and they knock on my door, and they're like, hey, look, it's gone. Yeah, so this is the power. Just like the Force when, So I'm going to show you that because, Thomas was the doubting Thomas. You got to see to believe, right? So science says we see less, like 1%, that this physical realm is 1% of what is. That 99% is invisible to us. It makes sense. If there's 12 dimensions and we can't see into them, maybe I'm seeing 1.1%, a little bit. I'm a medium. I see a little more. But someone might see a little more than me in a different area, right? There's psychic people, mediums, that they're clairaudient. They hear voices, and they'll tell you exactly. My name's Jack, and the will is under the stairs. Things like this. I don't do like that, but I see them, and I'll describe. Oh, your grandmother looked like this, and she was very thin, and she was stylish, and even though she was an old lady, she liked to keep herself well, and people are like, hey, yeah, that's it, and her personality is this, but I don't hear grandma talk to me. So everyone has a little different thing. So this is my thing, and this is what I was selected to do, so here I am doing it. So now seeing is believing. So science says we only see 1% of what is. So just think about it. In the Middle Ages, several hundred years ago, when people got sick or they got the plague, they were like, oh, the devil's upon us and we did something bad. We got to sacrifice a thing to get rid of this disease. And then we invented a microscope. And we started realizing, oh, there's bacteria on my desk. And then we invented microbiology and antibiotics and all this stuff. So, we weren't seeing, now we see a little more, that we have a microscope. And now we understand the universe a little more, like how it was created. Science said since they got Hubble, they can go back so far where the universe was a particle smaller than an atom, they say, that banged out and did all this thing, that they've looked through time backward, because light takes so much time to get to us, blah, blah, blah. They said they've seen it, the bang. And they said it was a little particle. I don't understand it, but I don't think as humans we can fathom that. But there is something that created it all, but a lot is invisible. These bodies have limitations. My eye doesn't zoom to 1000x to see the bacteria on the table, So there might be some species, like a dog, they can hear way better than us. If I blow a dog whistle, a dog will come running, but a human don't hear that frequency, right? Just because you don't hear that frequency, does that mean it doesn't exist? Of course it exists. I'm breathing air. Do I see the air? No. I can hear it moving in and out. I can feel it going across my nostrils and my lips. But I don't see the air. But it's here. I don't see X-rays. I don't see microwaves. I don't have a TV tuner in my head. I can't tune into the baseball game in my head. I need a TV to do that. Another human device that helps us to interpret radio and TV waves, right? So look how limited we are. We're like a thick curtain in front of the window, and we're just seeing shadows of what is. You know, most everything is invisible to us. So with all that in mind, you know, when I push this thing out of you or get it away from you or shield it, you're not going to be able to see that energy, right? Correct? Do I still got you? All right. So, you know, Kyler, one time I did a thing on people's homes. People's home. They were haunted for like a long time, 17 years, they said. And I created this bubble with them in their house, and we pushed everything out, all these demons, ghosts out. And I walked outside, and I said to them, "Oh, come on out here. You got to see the bubble over the house." And they're all looking. And the little boy says, "Pastor Peter, I don't see a bubble. Am I supposed to?" And I looked and I said, "Well, either do I. I don't see a bubble either. Not with these eyes, I don't. But it's there." They're like, "Well, we feel it, yeah." I was like, you know, just kind of getting them to do something different. Try to perceive it, you know. But, you know, their parents visited the house after that. Their parents gave the son the house. He grew up in the house. That's why it was haunted for that long. And the parents called me up on the phone like a day later. They're like, "Oh my God, we visited the house. It feels so different. It's so lighter." And they were having such bad luck. He lost his job. What else? Oh, the dogs. The dogs were tearing each other apart. They could go to school and work. The kids would go to school, the parents would go to work, and they'd leave these two dogs alone in the house. They were playing along just fine. One day, they just started tearing each other apart. They had to keep them on separate ends of the houses, one outside, one in. And I told them, "Let the dogs out." "No." I said, "No, they were possessed." I said, "They were scared to do it. They let the dogs are licking each other." Yeah. The guy calls me all the time now. He's like, "I got a job, I did this, you know, I do psychic reading for him," and he's like, "Oh, everything you told me is right." You know, I'm not here to brag about myself, but I got to give you some confidence in me. You know, if you don't have any confidence in me, then this isn't going to work so good, right? So, anyway, so seeing, believing, I'm back to that. So, all right, so I'm going to try not to sway my body. So I have this rod. I took all my rings off so it's not magnetic. So did you ever hear about a dowsing rod? A dowsing rod is the old timers, or whomever they were, they'd go around the earth, and when the rods cross, that meant this is where you dig the well. So they've been doing this for thousands of years. Even in modern times, the oil companies hired dowsers to tell them where to dig the rig, to put the rig. So these are a couple of $1 million rigs, you would think, to put a rig together. And they're trusting these guys with these metal coat hanger things to tell them where to put the rig. Well, I guess they wouldn't pay them the thousands of dollars they do if it didn't work, right? So these things find energy. They find energy. So if I wanted to touch my shoulder with this rod, I would have to kind of sway my body like this, right? It would be very animated. Or I would move my wrist and I would do this and this and this, and look how slow I'm moving it and how much my wrist has to move to hit my shoulders. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep my body up against the wall, and I am going to start moving this rod. So just like Star Wars and the Force, can I move objects? No, I can't. I wish I could. I try, but I'm not there yet. But, so now I'm moving this rod with this energy. So watch. Look how fast. Is my wrist moving? I got to point it down. Like gravity's going to keep it like here, right? Watch. I mean, I got to sway my body slightly, but no way to do it like this. So I learned about energy. you know, being a science dude, it was all about the energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not moving this object. Remember I said this object finds energy. So when water's running under the grounds, let's say you have an underground stream and you want to tap into that. Well, as the water molecules go across the rocks and the other media, it creates kind of an electrical magnetic field under the earth. And that's why when they do this, it crosses, they say, I had this well dug when I built this church. And I told the guy, dig it right here. And he says, oh, he knew all about it. He's a weld guy. Oh, you're a dowser? Yeah, huh? Dig it right here. He says, you hit the aquifer. Later, when you ask for a glass of water, I'll give it to you right out of the tap. It's beautiful water. No sulfur, no iron, just the right mineral content to be healthy. Spring water.
Nice.
Yeah. So my neighbor has sulfur. Everyone down the street has bad water.
Because they didn't do that?
Because they didn't do this. I mean, I wasn't just looking for water, I was looking for good water.
Right.
Yeah. So you just kind of put that in your consciousness.
Yeah.
So I am not moving objects. It's not following my hand. I can do this with my mind. So all I'm doing is, it's following the energy. Remember when I told that spirit, you want to kill me? You can't kill me. I got God in me, blah, blah, blah. And when I make the bubble, that's this energy that's bursting out of me. The God self. Not Peter. Not the program I thought I was. Not the human limitations that I put upon myself or what I was taught. But this God force, the greatest thing, the thing that created the universe, that's what's in every one of us. But we're not taught to be in our power, not much. So what it's doing is I'm pulling the spirit out of my body this way. Remember when the thing yanked the spirit? I never felt my spirit leave. It was scary, feeling like, I thought I was being really dragged, but it was my spirit. And when I realized it, and I pulled the spirit up into my body, that's when I realized I can control the spirit in my body. So they taught me a bunch. So now I'm not moving the object, following my hand. I'm just focusing on my life force, and I'm pulling it this way. And then I pull it this way. And I can do it without my hand, except it's better if I do, but let me focus and I'll do it even without my hand. There it goes. See? So I'm just pulling my Holy Spirit, and so now when I push it out of people, I use that thing that moves the rod, you know, and when we make the bubble, I'm doing the same thing. So you're no different than me, and I'd like you to just step up right here, if you don't mind. And I'd like you to move your hand in front of the rod. Ah. I guess you have that energy too. Of course you do. You're alive. If you were dead, you wouldn't. So you see? You got it as well. So, same thing. I'm just teaching you what the angel taught me, and that's all I can do. Your success depends on you. Depends on me too, but you know, my responsibility is teaching it to the both of you. What you do with that, you know, usually when you fail math class and 80% of the people get A's and 20% get D's, I guess you couldn't blame it on the teacher, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, is I'm going to teach it to you as it was taught to me and hand it to you as it was taught to me. And what you do with it, it's up to you, right? Cool? So are you ready to do this, or do you have any questions, anything at all? No. All right, so we're going to do a ceremony to push this off. We're going to open the tunnel of light to whatever's bothering you, to give it free access to go. I know it's been listening to me, so it knows the plan, it knows what we're doing. And we're going to repel this thing. We're going to open the tunnel first, and then we're going to repel it. And then once we repel it, it's going to be off you. But it's up to you if you want to release it. Because it becomes integrated within you. It becomes part of the program. Remember I said, like, if you were dropped off in a helicopter somewhere else, you would have a different name, a different culture, a different thing. Right? I want to ask you something. Do you have anxiety ever? You do, all the time. So, do you have a voice in your head?
Well, before these issues, I had it more constant.
Okay, well, I want to ask, I'm not talking about an outside voice. I'm talking about an inner voice, your own voice. Do you drive yet?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, you have a license, right? So you've driven a car. And, I could be driving down the road, and I see a supermarket, and the voice in my head might say a shopping list. We need milk, eggs, and bread, right? Is that not a voice in your head? Yeah, it's thinking, right? So if you were born, so yours speaks English? Your voice says milk, eggs, and bread? In English, right? The shopping list is in English, right? It's not pan, leche, huevos. It's not in Spanish, right? So you were programmed to speak English and think in English, right? So there's a voice in your head. It's called thought, right? Okay. So you're driving. So if there's a voice in your head telling you a shopping list, who's listening to it? You, exactly. So do you understand that there's two parts of you? You got the voice speaking and the listener. Now we'll go back to the supermarket example. I guess the listener's driving the car. The listener's in control of the vehicle, yeah? So when the voice says, we need milk, eggs, and bread, you don't do whatever the voice says all the time. It's just a suggestion. When the voice says milk, eggs, bread, you don't veer the car and go immediately and do whatever the voice... You're not a robot to the voice, are you? Right. Sometimes, though, you'll see my point. So, if there's a voice in your head telling you milk, eggs, bread, there's a listener driving the car. The listener's in control. On this particular day, the listener might just say, I'm tired, I'll get that tomorrow, and you hit the gas and you blow right past the supermarket. It's called choice, right? Okay, so everything is choice, right? So, and everything is cause and effect. Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix? You need to watch that. That'd be a good one for you. Okay, it speaks about an illusionary world, because we're actually in an illusionary world, being programmed to be this body, and it's like going to school. You know, I'm not Peter. I was way before Peter. I existed before that, in heaven or whatever you want to call it. I was a spirit before I entered into this body. In Christianity, they say, when you take your first breath, your spirit loads into your body, and when you die, that spirit comes through the air or breath. So, all right, back to the car. So, I hit the gas and I go home and I sleep early. No big deal. That's kind of a balance between the voice and the listener. The voice makes a suggestion and I act on that as I'd like, right? But sometimes the voice is in control of the car, of you, and the listener is like locked in the back seat of the taxi and they're not in control anymore. And I'll tell you how this happens. The voice is like this now. What am I going to do? And this and that, and I got this problem, and what are these I'm never going to be normal again, and I lost all my friends, and I don't go out, and this, and whatever it may be, right? What happened to my life? I had plans. I was going to go to school. I was going to be a professional baseball player. I was supposed to get a scholarship, and all that's down the toilet now, and kind of familiar. Yeah, so your voice is constantly smacking the hell out of you, right? He's laughing.
Well, she got me started.
Uh-huh. All right, so that's fine.
Well, I can see you on my...
All right, well, you see, so you understand that you have this thing. We all have it. So life programs us to fit in this box. And if you better behave yourself, because you're going to fit in this box, and if you're outside the box, you're either crazy, or you're in jail, you're in the psych ward, you're an outcast from society. You know, no one pays attention to the bag lady pushing the cart, right? She's crazy. You just ignore her. Yeah, she's outside the box. Yeah. So, I say that sometimes this voice gets way out of control and it's in fear. Because, you know, if you don't pay your taxes, they come take your house. And if you don't go to work, then you have nowhere to live. And then if you have nowhere to live, you know, next thing you know, you're homeless, right? And this is what the dialogue, the voice, it's like a nagging old lady behind you all the time. And you, no wonder you're all skitzed out, because you're not driving the car anymore. The voice is driving the car. And now you're like locked in the back seat of the taxi, to use like kind of analogy. And you're trapped, and the voice is going down the wrong way and through red lights and speeding and driving up on people's lawns, and you're like, we're all gonna die. That's like an anxiety attack, right? Have you ever had one of those? Plenty. So you suffer from anxiety, you suffer from the voice. And we're all anxious for one reason or another. We're all like hamsters, keeping up, paying the bills, another mortgage payment, another 40 hours work. So we're all trying to survive. So, you know, that's why we formed this Native American church, because Native people, they didn't live like this. This is not normal human nature. As we more modernize and evolve, you know, sometimes I think I would have been happier being the guy with the loincloth and the spear, you know. The most thing you had to worry about is you didn't get your catch today, right? That's about it. So, you know, back in those societies, they were community. You had a medicine man or a woman. You had people that cooked and nourished the children. You had the warriors that defended the territory. You had the hunters. You had all these things. And they all worked in harmony. I read some books about indigenous medicine people, and you know, they would treat people with sickness, and they'd get the herbs, and they'd go walking around in the woods and picking the stuff, and you know, that knowledge was passed down to them, and so therefore they're the medicine person in the tribe. You think the medicine person's cooking and making their dinner? No. Some lady from the tribe cooks the dinner and sends their little kid over to give the medicine man his dinner, because they know he's working, keeping everyone well. He doesn't have time to cook the dinner, you know. So everyone worked in harmony. It was like a body, you know. It was all working together. Yeah. And if you were a problem in the tribe, they would, you know, try to help you. But after so many times, they'd banish you. You're a burden. You know, we're not going to punish you. We're not going to put you in jail. Just go away. You know? And they'd send them off. And then sometimes they'd go into another tribe, hope to get in there, because if they were by themselves, a bear would have got them something. You need several men to bring a bear down, or a cougar. They're going to get you if you're by yourself. You don't have a gun. You know, they didn't have rifles back then to scare things off or shoot things. You were pretty much screwed, you know. They had maybe a bow and arrow or a spear. One arrow is not going to stop a bear. Might take several before you might piss the bear off. He's going to eat you, maul you or something. So life was different then. This program is a lot of fear. If you don't pass your classes, you fail and you get left back and you have no opportunity for college. So you're going to be a ditch digger all your life, or whatever that pressure is. So then you become the puppet to the voice. You become the puppet on the string to this nagging old lady in fear, pain, anxiety. And didn't we say that was all the negative stuff? So when you have anxiety and depression and all this, these things, oh, look at this guy. He's all anxious and depressed. Boom. Let's feed on all this emotional energy he's generating. See? See how simple? Things are not complex. They're very simple. It's all about cause and effect, energy, emotions, everything the angel taught me. He said to me, I'm here to unlock your shed. Tools. You have a tool shed inside of you, he said. He knew what a tool shed was. I'm going to unlock you with knowledge, he said. And that's what I'm doing. I'm unlocking the power in you with the knowledge. So, I'll give you an example of how the voice can take us over. So, let's see. Let's say we'll make up a random person. It's not you, me, or anyone in this room. And this person sets their clock for work, right? Set your alarm clock. And the alarm clock goes off in the morning and they hit the snooze, they hit it again. They finally wake up and the first voice in the head is, I hate my boss. Then the next voice might be, so hate, it's getting negative already. I hate my job. I think I'll take the day off. I'll call in sick. And then the voice might say, well, if you call in sick, you might lose your job. And then if you lose your job, and your wife got laid off a month ago, and Johnny needs braces, and Susie's in special ed, and she needs special this, and Grandma's got Alzheimer's, and oh my God, and this, and if you take off, you might lose your job, and then you'll lose the house, and then you'll lose this. Next thing you know, the voice has you convinced that you're going to be living under the highway in a refrigerator box, and your family's eating cat food. And then the worst thing is nobody loves you, nobody cares. That's what the ultimate end is. No one loves you, nobody cares. You're a lost soul, nobody cares. And look how lucky you are. Look how lucky I am that you have a mom that will look after you, you have family. I see a lot of people in this world that have nobody. If they lose their job, they are in the street. They have nobody to rely on, nobody. So look how lucky we are. Look how lucky we weren't the one in the ditch this life, the slave in the ditch. I thank God for my brain every day. I'm pretty witty. And, I didn't have to dig ditches for a living in my life. I had the option of being intelligent. So, and I can tell you're intelligent. And you're healthy, and you're not a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, So look, all the things you got going. We're just going to push this thing out, and you're going to continue your life, and it's going to be great. So you're homeschooled?
Yeah.
Okay.
First year.
Okay. So
I went to a earth building school.
Earth building?
Brick building.
Brick building.
I was in private school from pre-K to 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Public school for 8th grade.
Okay. You did pretty well in school?
For the most part.
Yeah, you're smart.
Few parts struggled, but not much.
Right. So you're blessed with that. All right. So, you can see how this voice can do this, take you over, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell you how I learned this. I learned this from firsthand experience. I was 42 years old, just recently divorced, and I had my kids, and I got the kids, the house, the bills, and I paid my wife off on the equity in the house. I had to take a loan for that. And at the same time, very not interested in my computer consulting company. I'm letting the employees run it. And I'm more interested in this, helping people, learning more. This is my passion. So I'm under all this pressure. And we used to put technology in buildings for companies. So we had this project. We had to this medical facility. We had to replace all the computers and the servers and move all their data onto the new equipment. And we had 48 hours to do it in. Monday morning, when they turn that key and open that door, they better have all their medical records. They better be HIPAA compliant. And so me and my staff, there was about 5 or 6 of us, we were working on this all weekend. We got it all done. And it took us 30 hours. We made the deadline, and I get home and I have no sleep. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. But I promised the church that I would talk about angels, because the pastor found out that I had angel encounters. She actually wanted me to do a talk on this. So I agreed to this commitment. So now I'm 10:30 at night. I get to this home office and I'm typing on my computer an outline about what I'm going to speak about. And all of a sudden, I can't breathe. I can't catch my breath. I start shaking. I can't type anymore. And that's when this started. And I didn't know. I wasn't consciously aware of it, but now that I understand it, I was able to become aware. So this is going on, and the voice in the head is saying, "Oh my God, you're having a heart attack. You might be having a heart attack. You better call 911." So I pick up my cell phone. Back then it was a flip phone. That's the technology then. And I hit 911, and I got my thumb on the red send button, and I'm ready to depress the red send button. I'm thinking, like, am I really having a heart attack? You know, I'm trying to steer the car, but the voice is doing this. Yeah, you could be having... I said, no, I'm too young to have a heart attack. I'm only 42. And then the voice said, no, this Olympic runner had a heart attack at 22. You're not too young to have the heart attack. You could be having the heart attack. You better call 911. And then I'm trying to get in the driver's seat again. And I said, well, maybe I have food poisoning. I never had that before. Then the voice said, no, you didn't eat yesterday. You probably don't have food poisoning. You're probably having a heart attack. You better call 911 before your daughter finds you on the floor dead. And then the voice says, does she know where the will is? And when the voice said she know where the will is, it was like I jumped out of the back seat of the taxi and I looked at the voice and I went, I'm dying? ? And it was the first time in my life at 42 years old I realized I had a voice in my head that was driving me crazy. And I looked at the voice and I went, I'm dying? And the voice went, oh shit, he's aware of me. And it went, it hit and shut up. It stopped doing this. I was the first, in 42 years of my life, it was the first time I questioned the voice or looked at the voice. I became consciously aware of my voice. I was probably subconsciously aware of it, but not consciously aware. And I looked at it, went, whew, and all of a sudden it stopped slapping me in the head, and I went, oh. And the first thing that came out of my mouth is like, oh my God, I have a voice in my head that's driving me crazy. I'm 42 years old and I have a voice in my head that's driving me crazy. And all of a sudden, I got really calm. And the voice stopped doing this. The anxiety went away. And I said, wait a minute, I've seen this before. I had an employee that had a full-blown panic attack at one of our clients. I had to go racing down there with my car, and they called the ambulance. We had him breathing out of the paper bag, and I said, what's going on? What's the matter? And he said, I went off my pills. He was trying to get his wife pregnant, and he was on all this meds, and he went off to get her pregnant, and he crashed, you know, and I guess there were some stressful things going on that day, and he just lost it. And I said, I've seen this before. And I said, he takes pills for this. I'm not going to mention his name because we're recording it. He takes pills for this. And I said, I'm not having a heart attack. I'm having a panic attack. And then I said to myself, how did I get in this condition? So this is what I did. I rewound the movie of my life. I rewound the video and I said, what was I thinking of 5 minutes ago? What was I happening? What was the voice saying? And I rewound the movie, and this is what the voice was saying. You should have started this a week ago. There isn't enough time. You're too tired to present it, and if you stay up, you'll be 40 hours awake, and you'll be stumbling on your words. And even if you do prepare, you're going to be another 10 hours without sleep, and you're not going to get your point across, and you're going to lose your place as you're speaking. And it's a big congregation, hundreds of people. It's a very big congregation, and they're all going to be laughing at you, scoffing at you under their breath. It even showed me a video, people going, "Who is this idiot? What is he doing?" Laughing. So look at what the voice did to me. It caused me to... Why? Because fear. Fear of being judged by my peers, hundreds of people. And then I got in the back of... I started becoming the puppet master again. I got in control and I said, wait a minute, I'm a good speaker. I'm not afraid to speak with anyone. I said, all these things happened in real life. All these angel encounters happen in real life. There's nothing to study for. If someone pushed me up on the podium right now, I could speak about angels for 2 hours. No problem. And then once I got in control, I was like, let me go to the Bible. I'm going to a Christian church. I need the Bible. I said, they have angel encounters thousands of years ago. I've had angel encounters in modern times. I know the stories. I know the Bible pretty good, but I'm just not good at knowing chapter and verse and who said it and where it is. So I had a program. I said, I can scan the Bible, and everywhere where angel and, that was my keywords, angel, messenger, wherever angel and messenger is in the same sentence, I found the stories. All I did was put some footnotes of, oh, this story compares to mine. It's very similar, just thousands of years later, same kind of lesson, and wrote the chapter and verse so that I was done, like in an hour. I turned on the radio in my office, I was singing. I was in a good mood. I went from going to having a heart attack, 911, to singing, enjoying myself, not feeling as tired because my CPU was going, and it was 90% was doing this and 10% was getting the job done. So my own voice was psyching me out and telling me I was going to be laughed at, I'm a buffoon, I'm a fool. So, Jesus said it and Buddha said it. They said, know thyself. Buddha said to be enlightened is to know thyself. Jesus said to know thyself. That's what they were taught. I always wondered when I went to Catholic school what they were talking about. Know thyself. What the hell does that mean? I know myself. I'm Peter. You're the voice in your head. And what is it doing to you? So Jesus said, be like the birds in the trees. Because when they settle down at night in their nest, they're not going, oh my God, Harry, do you think there'll be seed? The winter may come soon, and we should have flew south for at least a month ago, and we could starve, and I just can't do. What are we doing? That's the human condition. No, the birds are just settling in, and they're just being birds. And Jesus said, be like the flowers in the field. He talks about one of the flowers, all the other seeds, they got washed down into the meadow. And they're in the fertile soil, and it's sunny, and it's wet. And he talks about this one flower that the plant seed got caught in a crack in a rock on the shady side of the mountain. And the plant is like, oh, woe is me. Look at the other seeds. They all made it to the fertile valley. My roots are tight in the crack, and it's dry, and it's so shady I can't even produce a flower. And look at all those. Envy, jealousy, these are human things. He says, no. Even the flower that's roots are caught in the rock and it's dry and wilty, it's still just there, being the flower. So I went to the church the next day. I got to bed probably about 12:30. I had to wake up at like 6 or 7 to make it to the church. And I had to speak after the service. So I did. And you know what? I got a standing ovation. So my big question through all this process, all this thing I learned, it was so valuable to not be the puppet on the string anymore to the fear and the anger and all of it. So I felt free. I was free. I felt so free. It was like unbelievable how, that's why I put on the radio and I was like jamming out and doing my thing and I was so happy. It went from such a contrast to being the puppet to the master. I became the master of my reality. So I went to the church and got a standing ovation. And then after that, I said, I would like 15 more minutes of your time. Something happened to me spiritually while I was preparing, I said. And they agreed. They said, okay, we'll give you 15 more minutes. And I got their attention immediately. I said, I almost didn't come here today. I almost was in the hospital with a heart attack. And they were all like, oh, should you be here? And are you okay? And yeah, I'm okay. Let me explain. I told them everything I told you about the voice and the panic and almost calling 911. So I wasn't afraid to expose myself as a person. And I said, I learned something valuable. And I told him about the voice, and I told him about the Bible, how Jesus said, know thyself, how Buddha said, know thyself. To be free is to know thyself. To be enlightened is to know thyself. Don't you want to be free of this anxiety and this depression and this all this shit going on in your life? I'm here to free you, my friend. And that's what we're going to do. So I know it's a lot to take in. I'm bombarding you with tons of information. That's why recording it is good. So we're going to do this. We're going to use our power. And so I told them two things, and I'm going to give you two tools that you'll never get anxious again. Because you'll be able to catch it, you'll be able to control it, and whether it's a negative voice that comes from your consciousness or a spirit that comes around you or a feeling, you could always be in control. Okay? So here's what I told them at the church. I said, I'd all like you to create either a tape recorder in your head or a net, like a fishing net. And the net and the recorder catch all the voices in your head. It's just memory. We have it. But it's like you set something up, some kind of a physical thing, because humans, we like physical things. So it could be a tape recorder, a net. And I said, there's only one rule to the net or the tape recorder. I told him a net. There's only one rule to the net. The rule to the net is this, really important. This is a big key. Whenever I don't feel well emotionally, I feel out of whack, I feel anxious, I feel overwhelmed, I feel stressed. The rule to the net is when you don't feel well, check the net and see what's in there. What was it saying a minute ago? What was it? Remember, like I rewound the movie and I realized how I got in this state? So you become self-aware. Know thyself. To become enlightened is to become aware, is to become free. So I'm here unlocking your anxiety today. So after the talk, I taught him about the net. We get all done. This man comes up to me. He's like 60 years old. He says, oh my God. He says, I've been going to therapists, psychiatrists for 40 years. They just give me pills and it makes me not care. And he says, all those pills do is trim the bush. Just trim it, hold it back. He says, today, through knowledge and understanding that you gave us, you showed us the root. My anxiety is the voice in my head. In 40 years, nobody medically ever told me I had a voice in my head that was driving me crazy, and this is where my anxiety came from. They just listened and went, here's your prescription. So he goes, you showed me the root. He says, now that I understand it, he goes, I can pull it out. I didn't ever understand what was going on. He called me several months later. I'm off my pills. He says, thank God for you. And I'm not here to brag about myself. I'm just passing information along. And he said, keep preaching what you're preaching. Keep doing what you're doing. because part of your thing is anxiety. So, that's one tool. Do you think you can load the net and start to know thyself and analyze what it's saying? Because the voice is always judging everything on the outside. Oh, and why did she say this? And I'm always there to help her. She's never there to help me. Oh, I know what kind of person she is. And this one and that one, and my boss is this and my that, and my mom pissed me off today, or this or that. It's always judging everyone out here, but it never looks at its own self. It's called the ego. I call it the it. Like Stephen King, it. Yeah, it's the it. So remember, we said, why would it do this? Why would it beat the crap out of its own self, his own others? It's like the angel and the devil. You see those cartoons. Devil's always beating the crap out of the angel. You're stupid, you're this, you're that. That's like the voice. It's like the cartoon, Angel and the Devil. He's good. He's getting it. Yeah. So you're with me, right? So if you load your net, you'll know thyself, and you'll become more self-sufficient, more productive in life, everything. It's plus, plus, plus. No minuses to this. And so I'm going to teach you one more thing. So I taught you one rule. That's put the net or the tape recorder and realize the only rule is when I don't feel well emotionally, check what's in the basket. What the heck's it been saying? And I guarantee you 100% of the time, it's making a mountain out of a molehill. It's not to say that you don't have these problems. Of course you have these problems. But it tends to exaggerate. If I do this, what could happen? It always thinks of the worst possible scenario. You know, it's like buyer's remorse when you buy the new Porsche or whatever. Then you're like, oh my God, can I afford the payments? Right? Yeah. Or whatever, you know. If, oh my God, I didn't study. I'm going to fail the test and all this and that. And yeah, maybe you didn't study, but maybe you would get a better grade if you didn't have the voice going, oh, you're going to fail, you're going to fail, you're going to fail, you didn't study, you're going to fail, you're going to fail. To be able to have the power to just clear that out, and whether you studied or not, you probably get a better grade without this thing going, oh, you're an idiot, you should have studied. Right? Yeah. So now here's the second key. So the first key is the net. Here comes the second. And we're just going to shut this air off for a moment and make it quiet. You're going to love this. This is going to be awesome. So remember I said you're not the voice in your head. That's a program that was created. You've been programmed in this body with this experience in this society. If you and I were born in Russia, the voice in our head would be Russian, right? Yeah. All right, so I'll ask you a question. Did you have a voice in your head when you were a month old?
Yes.
You did? Okay. And it spoke English, I guess? Probably, okay. Now, did you know the English language at a month old?
No.
Then how could you have a voice in your head speaking at you in English if you didn't know the English language at a month old? So that means you haven't had a voice in your head your entire life. Everyone on this planet, as a matter of fact, is none of us had a voice in our head for a month or 6 months. At a year, maybe it started to develop, but all we did was cried when we needed a bottle or diaper change. We had no form of language. How could we be thinking in language when we didn't know language? When you were a baby and you got hungry and needed the bottle, your voice in your head wasn't going, gee, I hope mom went to the store and got the formula, or is she going to get home? And no, you just went, rah! Right? So we've been programmed with this voice. So you didn't have a voice in your head for a whole year. So how could you be the voice in your head? But the voice keeps telling you that you're you and I'm me. It keeps telling me I'm Peter, you're Peter, but I'm not Peter. That's the name my parents gave me. That doesn't mean that I'm Peter. I'm not Peter. I'm a spirit in a body having experience through Peter, and I will return to that same place I came from. And whether you believe in reincarnation or not, you know, people do things in heaven. They don't just sit on a cloud like the cartoons and play a harp. Wouldn't that be boring? All of eternity, I'm playing a harp. Oh, isn't this nice? Oh, nice, beautiful, puffy clouds. When is things going to change here? So everything has purpose, right? I said, why have these planets and these stars if this is school? We're spirits that come to school here in this physical body to learn about the 3D dimension. Yeah, in science, you have to have the 3D dimension. Everything's a frequency. You know, first dimension, second, it's all a bandwidth of frequency. Without the third dimension, this is the third physical, all the other dimensions fall apart. It's like a layer cake. You know? So we're kind of the consciousness that's giving it purpose. Everything has to have purpose, right? When I'm done with this, you know, drink, it'll be gone. It'll serve its purpose. It'll be in my body. Or, you know, when I have a loaf of bread and there's no more bread, I throw the bag out. It ceased to have purpose for me. Right? So everything has purpose, and you didn't have a voice in your head at a month old. None of us did. So why does it keep telling us this is us? Why is it trying to undermine us? Why does it go negative? Because of fear. All this program society tells you if you don't do this, this is going to happen. You don't do that. You don't behave. You know, if you were a little boy in kindergarten and they told you to sit down and behave, and then you start running all around the classroom. Oh, no, you're not in the box. We're supposed to sit down and behave now. Kyler, sit down and behave. And if you didn't sit down and behave and you did it again, they had you stand in the corner, maybe put a dunce cap on or whatever. Everyone laughed at you or whatever. Oh, Kyler was bad today. And then that's peer pressure, right? So they started programming all of this of what's normal, what's not. But I'm here to say all the famous people in the world were outside of that box. Christopher Columbus, the world is round. Oh, no, it's not. It's flat. We're going to put you in jail. We're going to behead you. Thank God for Queen Elizabeth. She got him out and gave him a ship. So all of these people, JFK, Martin Luther King, Dolly Madison. Dolly Madison's an interesting story. I didn't know who she was. I don't know. I came from New York and they had Dolly Madison cakes. I never knew who Dolly Madison was. She was James Madison's wife, the president. She saved this country. If you look at her documentary, it's unbelievable what she did. But anyway, Dolly Madison and such. So they were all outside the box. You know, before that, you know, they used to have people that did herbal medicine. And if you did herbal medicine, they were like, oh, no, you're a witch. Burn her at the stake. Meanwhile, she's just using natural herbs to cure people. And now you're a witch because you're doing godly things. So look how we had all this negative programming throughout the ages and how backward things were. You know, if you got sick, you sacrificed a goat and you prayed to the gods and maybe a virgin or who knows what. But, you know, look how backward it was. But that was normal stuff back in those days. Now we look at it and it's like, oh my God, how ridiculous. Think of the Spanish Inquisition, how many people they killed because they were outside the box, right? Can't let people have power and think for themselves. Oh, no. If you're a witch, you know, we're going to dunk you in the water. And if you die, that means you weren't a witch. But if you live, that means you are a witch, and then we're going to kill you. So, you know, either way, you lost. You know. And they tortured and all these crazy things. So now we know better, right? Hopefully we're a little bit more evolved. So, you know, why would this voice want to overthrow you and keep you in the negative? And I figured it out. It's because Peter and Kyler, they want to be the head honcho while they're here. In the background, you really know you're only here for about 70 or 80 years or so. And while you're here, you're going to be in the forefront. It's me. It's all about me, and what I need and what this is, and I want this, and it's all about this ego that was programmed and developed called Kyler and Peter. and you become me. And the voice keeps telling you, yeah, you're Peter, you're Peter, you're Peter. Even though there wasn't a voice for a whole year when you were born, but it came about. And it's like the movie with the robots. You've seen these robot movies where the humans create the robots, right? And the robots start doing all our work for us, you know. While the parents are at work, there's a nanny robot, and she cleans the house, and she suckles the children, and she tells them stories, and takes them to soccer practice, and puts them to bed, and starts to learn emotion, right? You've seen those movies, and they learn love, and next thing you know, the new robot model comes out. And then the factory comes and they take, they even named her Rosie or something. Takes Rosie away, and Rosie's, hey, you can't take. Yeah, I love these people, and oh no, you're a robot. We're gonna dismantle you. You're just no. I have a soul. I feel. And then the robots start revolting. Hey, we want robot rights, and they're picketing, and usually the robots will take over, right? They try to take over, and now there's a robot society. But they're trying to get equal rights because they feel love now. They've been programmed so much that they start feeling emotion and love, just like us. They feel like we're no different. Just because we're mechanical doesn't mean we have a soul or a something. So that's like our personality. I'm Peter, I'm the important one, and I'm going to keep you so busy to realize you're not God inside. To realize you're not powerful, that I'm the powerful one, and I'm the one, and me, and me, and me. And that's how it develops. And that's how it becomes fearful because of peer pressure, or, in my example, everyone's going to laugh at you. You're going to be stumbling on your words, right? No one wants to be ridiculed. We're taught if you're not popular or you don't fit in, you're an outcast, no one loves you, and nobody wants to be that. So this voice keeps you in line. It keeps you on the puppet on the string. So, you're not the voice in your head. Obviously, it wasn't here for a whole year, so how could it be you when you were here a whole year without it? So this God force, this thing I'm telling you about, is the most powerful thing, and that's who you really are, and you live forever. Just like I told the thing, you can't kill me. I've got a contract with God. You want to come and kill my body? Go ahead. I'm still live forever, so be gone. You're foolish. Mm-hmm. So, with all of that, so I'm just going to prove that you're not Kyler, and you're not Rachel, and I'm not Peter. That we're spirits in a body and we live forever, and I'm going to make you aware of it. Okay? So, I'd like you to put your hand out like this. And I'd like you can do it too, Rachel. It's a good thing. I love doing it. It's wonderful. So I'd like you to put your hand out like this, and I'd like you to stare at your hand quite intensely. Put all your effort into looking at your hand. And before you begin, there's a whole universe in your hand. The cells are changing. It has nothing to do with the brain. If I cut off my head, fed blood and nutrients, my body would continue to do its thing. The blood cells would do its thing. So there's a whole consciousness even in your body that you're not even aware of, right? Mm-hmm. Just goes to show you, there's a lot of different types of consciousness. It's almost like there's a whole universe in my hand, right? Okay, so hold your hand and focus on it. Now close your eyes. I'll ask you a question. Is your hand still there?
Yes.
How do you know it?
Feel it.
Besides the weight of your hand, if you focus on your hand and palm, do you feel an energy in the hand? Does your hand feel alive? Like it's tingling or it's warm, or you feel life in it? Some. Okay, so you become somewhat aware of it. Now I keep your eyes closed and start to become aware of the life down your arm. And put your arm down because it's probably tired, but still keep your eyes closed. Now I'd like you to start to feel the life force in and around your body. And you might feel it stronger in other areas, but try to feel it as a whole. Now I'd like you to move to your lungs. I'd like you to feel the life force moving in and out of your lungs as you breathe. I'm doing it too, because I love doing it. Feeling, putting all your focus on feeling the life force in your lungs as you breathe. Now I'm going to add something to it. Every time you have a voice in your head, I'd like you to focus away from that voice, back to feeling just the life force in your lungs, putting all your focus on that. Every time there's a voice, draw your attention away, back to the lungs. Don't try to stop the voice. Don't try to twitch your hands to make you distracted. You can't stop the voice, it keeps speaking. So don't try to fight with it, just draw your attention away from it. Every time it speaks, just draw away to feeling just the life in your lungs. The voice doesn't like this, it doesn't like you discovering it, so it's going to try and resist. But draw your attention back to the life in your lungs. We're trying to get a few seconds when the voice is, you're distracted away from it enough to feel silence for a couple of seconds, even if it's for a second. Don't fight with the voice, it's not a war, just be very calm. Just focus back on feeling the life in your lungs. Every time it speaks, just draw away from it, let it speak. Just focus back to the life in your lungs. Okay, you can open your eyes now. I felt it struggling. There was a big struggle there. It wanted to be in control. It didn't want you to be in silence. But did you get a few moments of silence where it stopped speaking?
Not really.
Even if it was for a second.
Not that I noticed.
What was it saying? You're having a kind of a headache thing going on?
It was quiet. All I hear is ringing.
That's fine.
It's nonstop.
Ringing's okay. I have ringing too all the time. Before I do a reading, if my head doesn't ring, I know I'm not connected. You know what that ringing is? Some people say it's tinnitus. It could be. That's a medical condition. But a lot of us psychic people have the ringing in our head. You know what that is? It's the Big Bang. It's the residual, like hitting a gong, gong, and it just keeps reverberating. That's all you're hearing. I have the ringing all the time. I've had it all my life. All my life. I ignore it. Sometimes it's so loud I can't hear people. But all you're doing is you're connected. Someone opened your pineal gland when they did that. My guess is when they did that acupuncture, they opened you up. Because psychic people, they hear the ringing all the time. We're just connected to the source. We're hearing the Big Bang, the ring of that.
Okay, you're sick.
Growing obnoxious.
Yeah, it just didn't like him starting to be free.
The quiet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, more quiet.
song tells me you play a lot of music and you have a lot of noise and a lot of distraction. That's because the voice doesn't want you to realize that you're the sound of silence, like Simon and Garfunkel said, the sound of silence. It's trying to attack you and get you to be agitated right now. It doesn't want you to be in silence.
I've had issues all my life with silence.
I know.
Every time the noise just keeps growing and growing.
Well, that's because, the silence, even though it's a ringing, it is silent. Well, let me explain it. It's not speaking to you, it's not putting new ideas in your head, it's just a ringing. It's okay.
It's what caused me to have aggression issues before these issues, but
Okay.
not as bad. It just got worse since January.
Okay. How loud is it? Or if you would say on a scale of 1 to 10, how loud is the ringing? Isn't it just like a background noise?
Like when you do a hearing test?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that E. Mine is like an E.
A lot louder.
A lot louder. So somehow you're connected to that big bang, that reverberation. You hear it, you sense it. A lot of people are oblivious to it. But the silence, even though it's ringing, it's not speaking, it's not making suggestions. So, was there a moment when you didn't have any speaking going on? If there was ringing, okay. But I wanted to see if you had a moment without any thought.
My brain is constantly going.
Okay, so you have to just learn how to be in the silence, because when you feel the silence, you realize, like, oh my God, I'm not my voice. I call it the something that's nothing. Just because it's not speaking, it doesn't mean that it's nothing. You got so used to hearing something to say you exist that when there's nothing, it's scary because, when I get there, there's nothing to say, there's nothing to do, I have no thoughts, there's nothing for me to want or desire, it's just nothing, it's blank. It's just blank. It's like when I looked at the voice and said, I'm dying, and it hit and shut up. All of a sudden it was like, oh, isn't this nice? It's like being on vacation. I don't have this nag. Well, I think we'll take a break, because I think you need a break. And I'm going to try this one more time to get you to feel the silence, and then we'll push it out of you and hopefully be done. Okay?